Israel's Prime Minister signed an agreement to push ahead with a controversial settlement plan that cuts across land Palestinians hope would form a future state. The E1 settlement plan links settlements in East Jerusalem to a settlement block in the occupied West Bank.
לא תקום מדינה פלסטינית ואכן לא תקום מדינה פלסטינית.
The plan dashes hopes held by Palestinians that they would create their own future state by cutting the West Bank into two parts. It's been called a red line for many European countries and is illegal under international law. The scheme received final planning approval, allowing authorities to move ahead with its construction after a ceremony on Thursday.
All the brown here is the Palestinian.
Netanyahu has defended the E1 plan as vital for Israel's security and its right to build near Jerusalem.
Israeli continuity at the heart of the West.
Prime Minister Donald Tusk said he expected unequivocal declarations of solidarity from Poland's allies following a meeting of the National Security Council. According to Tusk, Russian propaganda and its impact inside Poland was discussed. He dismissed any claims that Ukraine was behind the drone incursion, adding that Poland had the evidence to determine Russia was responsible. As US President Donald Trump said it could have been a mistake, Tusk answered, "We would also wish that the drone attack on Poland was a mistake." According to German media, citing sources within Polish services and NATO, 5 Russian drones deliberately flew directly towards a NATO base in Poland. Meanwhile, Polish officials said that the Ukrainian military will hold drone training sessions in Poland. According to French officials, the Russian ambassador to France has been summoned to the Foreign Ministry on Friday. Later in the day, an emergency UN Security Council meeting will be held to discuss the incident. Separately, Poland closed its borders with Belarus on Thursday evening ahead of a Russian-Belarusian military exercise.
Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro has been sentenced to 27 years and 3 months in prison for attempting to mount a coup after losing the 2022 election. Bolsonaro, who denied wrongdoing, was convicted of trying to stay in power despite losing to his left-wing rival in the race. Prosecutors found him guilty on 5 counts, including attempting to murder his rival Lula da Silva. 4 out of 5 judges found him guilty in a sentence that is expected to prompt backlash from the US government and has sparked protest in the Latin American country. The former president said through his lawyers he would attempt to appeal the conviction, which they called excessive. Despite his legal troubles, Bolsonaro, who has been put under house arrest, remains a powerful political player in Brazil.
Foreign aid cuts are threatening the UN's ability to support vulnerable Afghans returning to the country, a top UN official has told Euronews. This year, 2 million Afghans have returned from neighbouring Iran and Pakistan, where the governments are stepping up the return and forced deportation of Afghan nationals. It's piling pressure on an already outstretched humanitarian response, and Western aid cuts are compounding the problem.
We had to make quite difficult decision to deprioritize when we have so much needs in the country. And this is even before the earthquake and the large returns that we did not foresee from both Iran and Pakistan. So it's a quite serious situation. For example, in terms of the returns, when in 2023, when we had about 1 million people who returned from Pakistan, we were able to assist almost everyone with immediate assistance. Now, we can barely assist 20 to 30% of people who meet the vulnerability criteria.
Many returning Afghans arrive destitute and in need of shelter and jobs to rebuild their lives. Women face exceptionally harsh conditions as the Taliban's restrictions on women's rights intensify. On Thursday, the UN's refugee agency said it was halting its assistance to returning Afghans after the Taliban prevented its Afghan female staff from working.
So those are big, huge challenges they face, especially for female. This is very, very concerning. And especially those who are returning from Iran. Because you'll see that those female girls returning from Iran, they're quite educated and they're exposed to more open society where they used to go to school, they had jobs, they had good university background and all that. So when they return, it's very anxious, very uncertain, and adapting to an Afghan society where you have no freedom for work and education is a huge challenge that they must adapt to.
The US has cut over $1.7 billion worth of aid to Afghanistan this year, forcing an estimated 50 agencies to partly or fully suspend operations. The UN has previously warned that cutting the funding could be a death sentence for millions of people.
My brother.
To stay or to go home, that's the dilemma facing Syrians living in Europe. After Bashar al-Assad's fall in late 2024, 159 Syrians voluntarily returned from Belgium, according to the Belgian Federal Agency for Asylum Seekers. Originally from Idlib, Ahmad flew to Lebanon in 2012 after being imprisoned and tortured for taking part in protests against the Ba'athist regime. Having settled in Belgium 9 years ago, the Belgo-Syrian now works in the IT sector in Ghent. He plans to return to Syria in a few years to help rebuild the country through his association.
I would like to publish the democracy in the Middle East, and especially like in Syria. It's my country. It was already my dream since the start of the revolution.
Aisha fled Syria at 13 in 2011 after her father joined anti-regime protests. She spent 7 years in Turkey before moving to Antwerp through family reunification. Now a communications student, she hopes to visit Syria but rules out permanent return due to insecurity, limited economic opportunities and the prospect of starting over for a third time after losing everything.
How are you expecting a place who have been in war for 14 years to be safe for people? It's not even like life there is not stable. There is no job, there's no work, there's nothing. And some people have literally sold everything they had to be here. I know friends who sold their homes and cars and everything they had so they have the money to come to Europe.
Syrians have filed few asylum applications in the EU this year, following Bashar al-Assad's fall. The European Union Asylum Agency reports they are no longer the largest group of asylum seekers, overtaken by Venezuelans and Afghans. Still, the agency warns that some Syrians remain at risk of persecution.
The archive is an incredible treasure trove that spans his 50-year career. So for us, what was really exciting in particular was the comprehensiveness. It's huge, it's covering his 50-year career, but also the depth of it, from sketches that he's done, handwritten lyrics, costumes, instruments, even fan art, merchandise, props, set models, everything you could possibly associate with Bowie. He had assembled, he had collected, and he'd been an active archivist as well in his own collection.
We have 200 objects on displays, and as there are over 90,000 objects to choose from. So whittling down that selection was one of the biggest intellectual and curatorial challenges of my life, certainly. I am excited to, especially with the thematic displays, which will rotate every 6 months, we'll be able to pull out more objects on view. But especially with someone like David Bowie, there's just such a massive amount to choose from, not only in volume of material, but periods of work, genres, creative personas, even projects that we didn't know that he was working on until we got our hands on the archive.
You know, I was telling myself, you know, whatever prize you are winning, I mean, it's just amazing, and be thankful to life, you know. So I was happy. I was really happy, you know. I mean, being there in this theater. I mean, Cannes is really the temple of cinema. You know, it's really the place where few filmmakers we can still resist. You know, I mean, like showing a cinema with soul, a cinema that sometimes is fragile, but a cinema that is strong, being fragile, and so I'm proud of belonging to this family.
Es mi hija. Hace 5 meses que no sabemos nada de ella.
Hay otra fiesta en el desierto. A lo mejor estará por ahí.
¿Vosotros vais a ir?